And then I wake up Easter morning and you send me a video clear as day of an orb.
These are angels, celestial beings, watching, listening. Y'all see it still, right?
I was making a deal with whoever's up there to help me.
Holy mackerel, that can't be aircraft. There actually is a large unidentified object circling the Earth at incredible speed.
Actually, we are very curious to know where it is you come from.
January the 8th of 2007. I had just come through a near-death experience early 2 years before. From 17 years of Crohn's disease and a business that was a very large construction company. I mean, we did about $15 million or more a year in building. And so we were in the middle of wars, and we were here in Fort Bragg, and all the soldiers were gone, and there was no houses selling. And so stress and Crohn's don't go together very well. And what happened is I was losing everything I had. It was going down the tubes in interest, 60 and 80,000 a month in interest. And back then it was 8%. On construction notes. Now it's a whole lot less, but it caused the Crohn's to get so far out that I ended up in the hospital having a near-death experience and unable to work for 2 years. I couldn't get out of bed. It was, if I tried to go to the office, I was right back at home. And so this was a very hard time. And all my children were small, and I'm worried to death about them and everything. And so I recovered from this near death, and we sold our home, moved next door to my father out where I was raised in the country. And so Dad kept encouraging me to try to work, to try to get out. I needed to. And so in late 2006, I took on a job on the coast building a beach house. I didn't do the work, but I was overseeing some guys, some subcontractors. Job went on for 4 months or more. Come New Year's, we were done, all but a punch list. And so I told the guys to come home when they're finished. I'd already packed up and moved back to Fayetteville. And so they come home on that day, the 7th and the 8th, of 2007. Elvis Presley's birthday, I'll never forget, because one of the people that saw this thing, one of the neighbors said maybe Elvis has returned, because she knew it was his birthday. It happened to be somebody I knew. So get back to my thoughts train where I was going. So long story short, on that day, they cashed their checks. They came back and they're like, let's celebrate. Let's go fishing. We didn't have a job lined up for no time soon. It was over and I was ready to get home. So I told them, my wife was gone for a couple of days with her mother, with all the kids except for Chris Jr. He was with me. He was 17 years old. They cashed their checks. They came, when they got home, they called me. I had the only four-wheel drive. I picked them up. They lived about 3 miles from me. And the river was about 3 miles in the opposite direction. So we drove down through this, across the field, turned off the paved road and crossed the middle of a field to the back side of the field where the forest is. And the road went down in a gully to the river. So we drove down in there and it muddy, and about 2:30 in the day, parked the car. They got out and sat on the bank fishing. I made sure they were happy and Chris Jr. was happy. And so I told him I'm going to walk in the forest and try to see some wildlife, not telling them, I'm at the lowest point in my life. So I came back out about 4:00, 4:15. It's starting to get dark. In January, it gets dark by 5:30. It's pretty dark. So it was probably 4:45 or 4:30 maybe when I came back out, and I said, "You guys want to go fishing more? Or you want to go home?" They wanted to fish. So I encouraged them to help me get firewood and get a fire going, because I knew it was going to frost that night. It was calling for lower than 32. So I would say it was 10 after 5 when I had a good fire and a big bunch of spare wood to the side, and they were sitting on the bank. And I said, "I'm going to walk back up to the field that we drove in on and sit till the sun sets to see if any wildlife comes out." And still thinking, I'm crying out the whole time. I'm talking to whoever's up there to hear me, because I'm suffering from depression, sickness. I'm still sick, going to the bathroom 15, 20 times a day. It was that bad. And just not having to work. My doctor made me get rid of my cell phone, everything that could cause stress. So I'm all alone and talking to the universe, walking away from them at the fire. It's a 1/4 mile to the top of the field where the field starts. You got to go uphill a good 100 feet to a 1/4 mile. So as I'm walking along that trail, it's about 15 after 5, 10 after 5, and the sun was pretty low. And the road made one turn. It goes down, parallels the river, flat, 1/8 of a mile, make a left toward the west. It goes uphill 1/8 of a mile. So as I'm walking this first part, flat part, I keep hearing something in the woods rattling in the woods, walking. I thought, sounds like a deer maybe. I'd stop to listen more, and it stopped. And I did that twice. I stopped, and when it stopped, it started freaking me out. And I'm in the Boone and Crockett record book for a 160-pound black bear, 660-pound black bear. I've hunted all my life, and this stuff never bothered me. What I'm hearing now has got me nervous. So I actually get down on my hands and knees twice, 3 times, trying to see what's trailing me. I thought deer. I thought what sounds like 2 feet. Maybe it's a turkey. And about the 3rd time that I stood up and walked, I made to the turn. And when I got to that turn, the sun's coming down from the west down that lane, so it's not as dark. And I felt this relief. And I thought, I'm going to hurry on up to the top of that hill. It's getting dark. And I'm trying to get this out of my thoughts. So I get about 2/3 of the way to the top of the hill. And I'm watching the ground because it's muddy and thick grass, and the bushes are close on either side. The truck mirrors would drag the bushes on each side. So I'm watching my step, and I get within 20 feet of the top of that hill. I'm looking up, right? So you can't see the trees on the far side. So as I get far enough up the hill where the tops of the trees begin to show up, just before the tops, I see what I thought the first time I looked up was the sun. Same size, glowing orange, but it looked different. And I looked down to take a step. When I looked back up, I stopped a second, said, that don't look right. And I'm a commercial pilot. I'm trained. I know what is and what isn't an aircraft or anything. So it didn't take me long to recognize something that wasn't right. So I took about 3 more steps, and I look, and I start to see a second one sitting right beside it. So what I'm seeing now is the sun has set behind the trees, and there are 2 balls of fire that looks like the sun, both of them sitting on top of the trees on the other side of the field, 200 yards away. And I'm just mesmerized, looking at it, and then fear sets in. I'm like, oh my God. So I squatted down using the hill to hide myself from these 2 balls of fire. And I'm thinking, what am I doing? I'm going through every thought I need. And I'm crying out to something from heaven, and I didn't realize that's what's come. So I'm scared to death. I'm looking at these two balls of fire, and I turn and I look down the hill and I raise up and they're still there, and I'm making my way out. I'm fishing to run back down that hill, and I'm thinking how hard it's going to be to run through this mud and these thick bushes and the rush, liable to fall. I'm not too stable. I've been sick and frail and everything else. And I had made my mind up to run. I don't know how long I sat there, but it seemed like a minute, maybe two, looking at these two things. And so when I decided I'm going to run, I turned my whole body and I looked back and raised up to see if they were still there before I dashed. And the minute I did that, a third one up above me appeared out of thin air. Ploop, it just came on, this big orange ball of fire, and it went straight down within a second and was sitting beside the other two. And this chill factor came over me. My hair became electrified, and I knew it saw me. I knew they knew I was standing there, and I knew, I just knew I was done for. And at that moment, then I didn't realize what happened. Next thing I remember, I'm running up to the fire, and a lot of people want to know what it was like to be taken, what happened at that moment. But to continue this story, I didn't find that out till later. But to continue the story, I run back down in I don't even remember the last 30 yards. I run like in a little jog the last 30 yards, and I see the fire. And there's 2-3 guys standing at the fire, and they're not fishing, and they're looking down at the fire, and it's real small. And they see me trotting up, and I'm excited to say, man, you won't believe what I just saw at the top of the hill. And they're like, where in the world have you been? And that ain't the words they use. I mean, it was like, we've been looking you all night, and I'm still coming to them, right? And I don't even recognize, I didn't even notice the truck was moved from where I parked it. So they had been out looking for me. And Chris Jr. wasn't there. So I got freaked out, and I said, where's my son? I worry about him. He's not there. And he's always been the kind that was always nervous around me, always with me, and didn't want me out of his sight. And so what had happened, what I found out within a couple of minutes of me trotting up to the fire, I hadn't even stopped good till I took off looking for him. They said, well, we've been looking for you for a long time, over 2 hours or more. And Chris Jr., he's been gone for 2 hours or more. He went back into the cul-de-sac. So we drove to a dead end. He went to the dead end and went on in the forest. That's where I had gone earlier that day. So he went that way on foot. One guy stayed at the fire, and 2 went looking for me. This was 2 hours after I'd been gone. So 4 hours I'd been missing. And so I left them in a trot heading to the back of the cul-de-sac. So grassy, about 3/4 acre grassy circle, or sort of pear shape. So I run on back and I'm shouting for him. I don't have a flashlight. It's dark, stars shining. And he wouldn't say a word. And I ran on up to the edge of the woods, and around here in North Carolina, it's thick around the edges. You can go in the forest, it'll open up. But right around the edges, it's thick. And what had happened was, James, where he was standing, he could look straight down the 1/8 of a mile road to where it made the turn left, where I felt safe. Long story short, he was back there looking for me while 2 drove out in the car. One stayed at the fire. He saw, before they left, he saw 2 red balls of fire come out of the left side of the forest, cross that road to the right. Freaked him out. He ran over to the fire. So he'd gone back there earlier. And he said, I'm telling you, I saw it. And they thought he was, just a young boy. I saw this ball of fire go in the woods. And they're like, don't be messing with us, Junior. One guy was telling him that. So long story short, it was like they didn't want to believe him. He goes back to where he was standing, and he's looking for his dad. And he's very upset by now. And he looks back down the road. These two red orbs come back out of the woods on the riverside. And when they get to the road, they start towards him. He watches these two little balls of red orbs, red glowing balls, come all the way. And when it got within 20 feet of him, he'd already backed up under these bushes, got down on his stomach trying to hide because he got nervous. And when they got within 15, 20 feet, they stopped, and he could see clearly it were two little beings, about 3.5 feet tall. They had these like goggles. They glow red, and but they're just these round, glowing, look like goggles, and these little translucent glowing beings. But he couldn't scream, he couldn't move. When there was one always looking at him, and when it would look at him, he couldn't shout. He felt paralyzed, and he told that many times. So when the truck drove out, when Junior disappeared, they couldn't find him. They were calling for him. He wouldn't answer because he couldn't. So they got in the truck and drove out, and one guy stayed the fire. And when the truck came back in, the light coming down the path shined on them, and Christopher said they jumped down in this stump hole where the hurricane had blown over a big oak tree, and the root ball was sticking up, and they just went down ground level to hide, but they were still there at him. And they never left, because when I ran back to the back to get Junior, and I finally found him, he'd come up out of those bushes as I'm going in the forest trying to keep from putting my eyes out with a twig. And I'm panicked by now, worried about him, but all what's happening and how these guys were acting. And I hear him crying, and he comes up and he's, "Daddy, where you been? Where you been, Daddy? These creatures." And I'm like, "What?" And so I got freaked out about that time. And so I grab him, and we walk back to the fire, and he's wailing. He's not happy. And these guys are freaked out bad by this time, hearing what he's saying and what I'm saying. And their eyes are like that. And one of them had seen this red ball of fire, light, little orb, saw a glance of it. So he knew. And about that time, I hadn't had him back to the fire. And where I found him from where the fire is probably 75 yards at the most. When I got him back to the fire, maybe 2 minutes into trying to sort this out, he's like, "I want to go home. I want to go home." That's all he could say. One of the guys shouted, "Look," and we all look up, and it looked like stars, like Venus. These balls of fire you see moving around up there were those 8 or 9 of them, and they went out and they came back together, and it did this maneuver in the sky, and 3 of them came down and landed on the ground on the other side of the river. Less than 100 yards from where we were standing are 3 45 or 50-foot balls. They look like eggs. If you see them in a distance, they're round. When they get up close, they're kind of globular. It's almost, sometimes they look like a raindrop, but they landed on the river, and they're pulsating this bright light. So one can imagine a 4 grown man and a child is freaked out, never touched the fire, never got our poles, never a cooler, nothing. We ran to the truck, jumped in it, and all I could hear was beating on my seat, screaming to get us out of there. And when I think about it, I wasn't afraid more. I was, something happened to me, and I didn't realize it at that time, because the whole drive home was harrowing. We took off from the fire, started up this path, this first 1/8 of a mile, and they're saying, "Run, go faster." They're screaming, "Go faster." And I'm like, I can't go any faster. My mirrors are dragging those bushes on either side, and the truck's wallowing in the mud. And one of the guys in the truck said that this red orb come out of the forest back where I found Chris Jr. and was coming up behind the truck. The orb was still behind us. We got to the top of the hill. I'm going as hard as that old truck. It was a four-door F-150. I floored it, went over the hill, and it was almost like you see in the streets of San Francisco or something, like they jump those hills. That's the way we come over that hill. And when we landed on the ground, I had to jam on the brakes because now the same balls of fire that was up there, these two big orange balls, the first two that were sitting over the trees, were still in the same exact place. They were blood red now. Before they were tangerine orange and looked like fire swirling. Now it's blood red and they're just sitting there. And the third one that was blood red or orange is now sitting on the ground or hovering over the ground about 5 foot and about 150 yards in front of my truck. So we couldn't go any further. The path was blocked. This thing is 45 or 50 feet long, looks like an egg or a football laying on its side. More like an egg than a football, I'd say. And it's got this light going around it like this. And it looked like blades or spikes or fingers of light just going around it and around it and around it, all over it. And we're all freaked out. I'm not freaked out like they were. I'm freaked out because they're freaked out, and they were, and they're dying to get home, and they were saying, this is the end of the world. I want to see my wife before the night's over. I don't think I'll ever see my children again. We were hearing all this. Everybody was in pure terror, and Junior's not helping by adding to what he saw, right? I don't know what happened to me. I'd been gone 4 hours. I saw these balls of light, and now I'm seeing them on the road. All that other time, it was wiped from my mind. And even the fear to be afraid of it, I wasn't afraid anymore. So there's this trailer house, a mobile home, sitting about 75 or 100 yards to our right in another property field. And one of the guys said, I know who lives there. He's on our softball team. Drive up there and I'll knock on his door. I didn't have a cell phone. We wanted to make sure they're seeing what we're seeing, and we're facing it. We can't go any further forward. So I crossed over the ditch, the road, drove up into his yard, pulled right up to his front door. His screen door was closed, glass door, but the main door was open. You could see the TV. You could watch TV through the front door. The cars were home, and my headlights are 6 foot from his deck. And one of the guys, Donnie, he gets out, knocks on the door. Nobody comes to the door. And the funny thing is, they went back the next day to get our fishing poles and stuff and saw the guy and said, we were home all night. We never heard a thing. I blew the horn and they knocked on the door. So once we got nobody to the door, we got back in the truck. I backed back out, and now I'm facing this thing again. Still can't go to the road. It's got us blocked. And you can imagine the tension rising in the truck. It's the end of the world. Where's the Air Force? We live near Fort Bragg. Why aren't they here? We're waiting on jets or something to come, And about that time, we hear a gunshot. So this crazy country boy, somebody had to have shot at it, or I don't know what caused it. There were 3 shots. Boom, boom, boom. We all heard it. And as soon as the third shot happened, it's sitting crossways of the road. It pivots. And now here it comes straight at us from 150 yards. There's one tree between us and it, and it's about 40 feet tall. And this thing, as it gets closer to the tree, it starts up and it clears the tree. And when it went over my truck, I had a full view of it through the sunroof. I mean, it was all there. I could have shot it with a slingshot. And it looks like I've got many videos of this stuff. And you can see one that I say it's like a solid object, but you can see this plasma just doing this, and its holes open up. Some friends in the science world think that's the way they view from there. I don't know. There's speculation, all of it, but it went over just past the back of our truck. We're all looking up at it now, and it kind of pivots and shoots off in a hurry to the north. So I floor it, start home. I got to drop them off. They're fighting who goes home first. And the biggest guy won, and I had to go 4 miles out of the way to take him home to come back. They didn't want to challenge him, and he's always the toughest of the bunch. So and the other two live next door. So I dropped him off, and on our way, once we pass these two guys' house and we make it, it was before Gene's house. So there's a power line, a high tension power line. We only got to drive from where we're sitting at the river 2 miles to one stop, 2 miles past them. So we went past and came back, dropped them off. In the first 2 miles of that trip, about halfway, there's a high tension power line. And it's crazy because I experienced, I lost the first wife in that curve there. She died right in that curve in a car wreck. And when we pulled along that curve there, I stopped the truck. I tried to stop and get out, and they were beating my seat. Don't stop. I mean, they were freaked out. I wasn't afraid, but this thing was hovering right over the top of this high tension power line, right where all that happened. It was just amazing, this whole experience. So I'm reluctantly driving off, and there's this gigantic black, I don't know how big it was, but it was huge. And it's sitting right over the power line, and we're driving right up under the end of it. I go on by, I drop them off. Junior does not want to go back that way home, which was a shortcut. So we went 4 miles down, dropped David off, came back 2 miles, dropped Gene off, went back past David's around to go home. This is where it starts again. We get home, it's about 11:30, I guess. I run to my study in the back of the house. I turn all the TV on and radio. I'm listening for emergency broadcasts. I'm trying to find it on any news channel. And I'm like, just cannot imagine why I'm not seeing it on TV. And this is what I'm thinking. Chris Jr., he's not doing well. He's just really in shock. He runs from room to room. He would lock the doors, turn the lights on, even in a hall bathroom with no window. He'd turn the light on, lock the door, all the floodlights on. And so he comes running. Once he finishes battening down the house, he comes to my room, and he wasn't in there 2 minutes when the dogs start going crazy. My dad has a kennel. We live right beside one another, straight behind Dad's house. He has a kennel. At one time, he had 104 dogs. That was the most he had. He traded them. But at that time, there were about 15 hound dogs, hunting dogs. And it's really indoor kennels, lights, roof over. It's a really nice place. So I hear all these dogs. I hear this noise come over. And what it sounded like was sort of like the Schumann resonance. It was just a boom, 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 boom. It was just a strange noise. I hear it, and I thought Fort Bragg helicopter is going straight toward the river. And the way it came from was the way Fort Bragg was. So I just knew that. But all of a sudden, every dog in that pen started going nuts, and it was making this noise, this bark. They were barking in a way that they were afraid, and I knew they were afraid. And to hear them sounding like that, it make you afraid. Chris Jr. is now, he's freaked out, and I'm like, son, somebody's got to be breaking in Dad's shop. He got a 40-foot garage next to this kennel, and all my stuff's over there. We have fun hunting, fishing, and boats, and all kind of stuff. And so I'm thinking somebody's trying to break in the shop, and the dogs are seeing it. And I'm like, got to go check this out. And he's, please, Daddy, don't go outside. Please don't. I said, son, I've got to see who's doing. I'll use the darkness. Won't use a flashlight. When I we're looking out the back door, and I've got a 110-pound Chesapeake Bay Retriever that would bite you if I told her to. And so I said, we'll use Rosie, keep us safe. So he was in full protest when I opened the door, and I went out that door. He had me by the back of the shirt. When I opened that door, Rosie takes off toward the kennel. Now, our houses are side by side, so I go out about 75 yards and make a left through the woods to the kennel, sit back in the woods. So I go back, we make this little path, and we're easing down this path, and the dogs are getting louder and louder, and we get up within 10 feet of the pens, and I'm in shock because they're all facing behind the pen, not toward the garage. And I'm thinking nobody would be breaking in the garage and had walked that way. They would have walked away from the pen. So I started thinking maybe it's a bear, because a lot of times dogs are afraid of a bear. They smell him, they'll make this bark, sort of like a boo. You know what I'm saying. You've heard dogs, but they're doing this, and I can see the first part of them was the kennel's long and L-shaped. And Chris Jr. is right beside me, and Rosie's sitting right here pointing into the forest with all her hair standing up on her back. And there's an awful racket going on. And so I whispered, Junior, I said, Junior, I said, somebody's in there. We're going to go right back down the path to our property, and we'll walk back run back to the back of our property. It's about 600 feet and deep, and we'll let Rosie push them out. Whoever's in there will get to see it. He just kind of nodded his head, and I took off down the trail in a good trot. And before I did, I bumped Rosie with my foot on the rail. I said, get him, Rosie. She takes off in full bore into the bush. And it's thick. She says, she's getting in there. And we run down the path. He's got me by the shirt still. And when I get to the end, it already started frosting. And when I went to turn left, my feet started slipping out from under me. And so I thought I had pulled away from Christopher. But what happened was he made a right, and he went back towards the house. He didn't want any more of what was going on. And so I didn't realize he had pulled away. I thought he was trying to catch up. So I ran hard as I could run to the back of the property, and I ran right up this big old oak tree. And I just, in a full run, I run to it and grab myself and stop, trying to be quiet. I'm going to see, because I'm hearing the dog coming. And man, it's exciting. All this is happening. And that's all I can tell you. The biggest bear bear hunting, the 660-pound bear, was hunting with dogs. And, if Ray's hunting with dogs, how even wild boar hunting, all that can get pretty exciting. So I'm thinking this, right? So I run up to this tree, and I stop myself in a full run. Rosie's in the woods coming, and I'm trying to pant as quietly as I can. And I look back to see if Christopher's run up to me. I just knew he was going to run up to me and stop and hit me. But the minute I look back, there stands behind me about 4 foot away. If I'd have leaned far enough forward, I could have touched it. It was translucent, glowing, soft white, like the photo I sent you. It had these red glowing eyes, just 2 round sockets were glowing red. And I knew I was dead. I just went limp, and I turned myself to face it with my back against the tree, trying not to get any closer. And I just said, I surrender. I mean you no harm. And it said, you don't understand. We're here to help you, not to harm you. And about that time, Rosie comes through out of the thicket, and instantly it just disappears right in front of me. Well, she runs on another quarter mile, and I didn't catch her back to the next day. She ran out of hearing. And but that was the first night in 2008. January 8, 2007. I've been knowing about this for a long time. Probably more than anybody in the whole field, because I've been involved in it, knowing that they were going to turn loose some information. And now it's about funding. So money's being spent, And some of these guys are so far up the ladder, you know, they grab me and get grants to study this kind of stuff. I've seen them on the ground probably 7, 8 times. I mean, they come out of the sky and come right up to me. They'll come and appear as orbs, sometimes very bright, just a flash of light. Sometimes it'll be red. Sometimes it'll look like a flame, like a candle. But anyhow, one across the pond, a red one appeared, come all the way about that half the water, across the pond to us, and then went out about 20 feet away. And they're like, oh my God. Then it started. They came from the woods. They got within, at one point, one was 2 feet over Foxy's head, and it was this big around. So a flash of yellow fire, it looked like. About 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening, I walk outside on Monday afternoon, and it was not quite dark, just about to get dark. And the minute my back door is 6, 7 feet from the water, I can stand at the back door and fish. And so the minute I walked out the back door, when I opened it straight up on the other side of the pond, it's about, I don't know, 70 yards wide at that point. The trees are 80-foot pine trees, some maybe 100. Above the pine trees on the far side, an orb appears the size of a beach ball. And I knew it was waiting. The way it reacted, it was reacting straight towards me. It starts flashing, 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 and it starts spinning. They're always spinning. And it spirals down to the tops of the pines on the far side of the lake. It goes through the trees. When it gets to the ground on the other side, it stops. My heart's going thump, thump, thump. And I'm standing there, and I got 2 dogs beside me. And I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to be afraid.
I started going down this rabbit hole. I knew your story back when I saw it like 14 years ago.
Right.
And I've always been into this, right? Always. And so I get with these group of guys and we start doing what we're doing. And the thought occurs to me, more than a thought, Chris Bledsoe, we just need to reach out to him. And we did. And we spoke and we traded communications. And then was talking with other people that are also, you know, some of the same folks I know. And as I'm talking to them, everyone's saying the same thing. Everyone's saying something's coming, intuition strong. And it wouldn't leave me alone. All I can say is I knew, I reached out to you, said something's coming. And you told me light's coming. And I said, Easter. And you said it's already in motion. And I wake up Easter morning and you send me a video clear as day of an orb.
I have to tell myself I get a shaking. Thank you. These are angels, celestial beings, watching, listen. Y'all see it still, right?
I was making a deal with whoever's up there to help me, and whatever it takes, just help me. And it came. And here's the whole thing that drives me, that will never make me look back. The reason, I guess they knew I'm the kind of person that no matter how hard you try to make me, I can never go back. Because after that day, that first day, when Junior and I, after the first night at the river, the next day, I never took medication again for Crohn's. And I had been on it for 17 and a half years and had a near death because of all the medication. My blood became toxic and I had toxic poisoning and it nearly killed me. But I came from that to no problem with Crohn's, and probably my children have been blessed greater than anything I could ask for. All of them, my wife, both of us. It's turned into a major blessing. And that old person that said after 12 years, it was 2019, Chris Jr. could never have children according to Chapel Hill because he has endocarditis and he had an infection in the heart, and they treated it and said you could probably never have children. Well, right after that Easter Monday, Christopher was living at the beach, right? He comes home and he meets this girl. Now we got a new grandchild that said we could never have one. He gets this craziest deal comes on a house. This person didn't have a for sale sign in the yard. He's bought another house. He's wanting to fix it up and sell it. And my wife just stops by there and asks him one day. She don't even know why. He ended up with a house at a $40,000 deal. I mean, $40,000 equity and a new baby and a new company. And Emily ends up with a call from New York. We'll give you $100 an hour to teach for us at NYU. And my son Jeremy, he's a data scientist. He gets offered a $70,000 or $80,000 a year job at East Carolina University. And then my other son's in Wilmington, and it's just been blessing after blessing after blessing. And so I can never not see that. I can never not know that however hard it is, I have to remember where it all came from and how it was given. And I accept it, and I will do what I have to do to stand by what it is I know.